Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here's our name.
Oh, yeah, let's shift the chairs. Shift the chairs in case Bill shows up.
Oh, okay.
Stand up. Take Barbara's seat. Good. Thank you.
I'm going back out in the other room and start over again.
Yeah.
Yes, Ernie.
Go home and make sure you came in the right way.
Sorry, we like to play musical chairs.
Jack, do you want the continuances?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take item 7B out of order.
Second?
That's H.
7H.
Oh, H, I'm sorry. I should have worn my glasses.
Okay, second.
Move and second, take 7H out of order. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400, Noel. By the way, welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
You see your baby?
Yep. No,
Beautiful.
not yet.
Beautiful.
Public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 6.1.1.1, alteration of a non-conforming use of the zoning bylaws, 336 Cambridge Street, Lin Wai-Zhu et al. Applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of April 18th, 2019, as requested by the applicant's attorney in an email dated April 4th, 2019.
Second?
We moved and seconded to take items 7J, K, and L out of order. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 400. 500.
Okay.
Continued public hearing, application for approval of site plan, 328 and 330 Cambridge Street, Iconic Capital
Oh, wait.
LL.
Citizens.
This is continuation too.
Taking
Oh,
continuations.
Still in this one.
Cambridge Street, Iconic Capital LLC applicant. And item K, continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 7.2.6, increasing the maximum parking space requirements of zoning bylaws, 328 and 330 Cambridge Street, Iconic Capital LLC applicant. And item 7L, continued public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.4.1.11, discharge from man-made structures into the wetlands of the zoning bylaws, 328 and 330 Cambridge Street, Iconic Capital applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue these matters to the planning board meeting of May 16th, 2019, as requested by the applicant in an email dated April 1st, 2019.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500, Noel.
You can do that. Make a motion to take item 7M out of order.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change to a subdivision roadway, 36 Mill Street, Beverly Van Nostrand applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of May 2nd, 2019, as requested by the applicant in an email dated April 1st, 2019.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to take item 7N out of order.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Continued public hearing, application for approval of a site plan, 61 Center Street, Town of Burlington applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of May 16th, 2019, as requested by the applicant in an email dated April 1st, 2019.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 500.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Has there been any subcommittee meetings scheduled for 61 Center Street, as far as you know?
Last I knew, we were waiting to hear from Member Impember and Member Gaffney as to who was going to be on the committee, and since both either are here,
Okay.
I haven't heard from,
The administration has not reached out to our office on this matter.
no, they
Oh,
have
they did?
actually.
Sorry.
But
I'm so sorry.
I told them that it was Member Covino and either. When I hear back, I'll let them know. So when I hear back, I'll let them know.
yep.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Citizens' time. Anyone here on a matter that is not on the agenda? Seeing none. Announcements. Should we postpone those till later in the meeting and go right to
Sculpture Park?
Sculpture Park? Yes.
Can I
administrative
make one announcement?
Yes.
The last announcement, because we might, I just wanted to introduce Lisa Mead, who's here with us tonight, which is our new town council from Mead, Толlerman, and Costa. And she will be with us for all of our land use matters and other town matters, and you'll see her at town meeting in May. And I just wanted to introduce her to the board, as well as anyone who might be watching, and wanted to do that before we got into any other matters that she may be weighing in on.
Thank you
Welcome,
for being
Attorney
here.
Mead.
Thank you.
Administrative matters, Sculpture Park. Barbara and John, if you would come forward.
Mr. Chairman, I asked staff previously this week to distribute to the board members a document about the mission for the Sculpture Park Committee and what the makeup is of that committee. I have not received any questions, but I'm hoping that we can answer them tonight, and it is our hope that tonight the planning board will vote to formally accept the Sculpture Park Committee as a subcommittee of the planning board.
I did have one question on
Sure.
that. In there, it said something about electing members to the board. Isn't it, shouldn't it be appointing, except for the chair?
Sorry, you're right.
Except for
It's
the chair
appointed.
would be elected by the members of the
Yes,
committee.
thank you, that's a mistake, and I'll fix that.
Thank
Thank you.
And I'm assuming that since it's falling to this board, the selectmen have chosen not to have the committee under them.
That is correct. We are still hoping that one of the selectmen will participate as a member of the committee.
But they don't want the committee reporting to them. That's your understanding.
That is my understanding, yes.
Question?
Of course.
I did have a question on the makeup of the board, of
Yes.
the committee, rather.
Yes.
There doesn't seem to be anybody from either the Burlington Cultural Committee or the Beautification Committee. I don't know if that would make any sense, or have you asked them? And
I was under the impression that the cultural committee had sort of vanished, but
Oh,
maybe
really?
I'm mistaken.
because there's a lot of lottery money that gets allotted to the town, because
Pardon me?
I believe there's lottery money that the town gets, that they are authorized to.
Yeah, I think I can answer that. Actually, I'm a member of the Cultural Commission. The selectmen,
Here, John.
Can you pull that closer, please?
Sorry, our jet engine above us is pretty
Working?
loud.
Yeah, pull it real close. The acoustics here are awful.
awful, yeah. It's the Cultural Commission, I was appointed to it actually by the selectmen. We meet approximately once a year to divide state arts money, but it's only about $5,000. We got a bunch of requests, about 20, and most organizations ended up with about $200 or $300. So we didn't feel that the amount of money would affect the sculpture park either way, and that the committee meeting once a year wasn't a real part of the town life.
Just for my own education, how many there are members of the cultural committee,
I
though?
think there's 5,
5, okay, thank you.
as I remember.
Thank you, John.
It might be useful,
Yeah.
and I apologize, I didn't print it out in front of you, but it might be useful if one of you or Barbara, if you want to kind of just outline the
Yes.
general mission and
I'd be
and
happy
just
to.
the outline of what you did, and I did send it out to all the members in the meeting preview.
No, for the people listening to, and
Right.
I'd be happy to do that. So the Burlington Sculpture Park Committee, if it is accepted tonight, will be a subcommittee of the planning board. And the mission of the Burlington Sculpture Park Committee is to create a municipal sculpture park in the town center of Burlington and to regularly update the park with new works, plus organize public activities centered around centered around the sculpture park so that it becomes a focal point for the town and adds an art-related dimension to Burlington's identity. We are suggesting that the committee be comprised of one person representing schools, one person from recreation, one person from planning board, one from the library, one person from the Board of Selectmen, a town meeting member, and a business community member. From those 7 people, we will elect a chair who will run the meetings and have other responsibilities such as reporting to the planning board. The planning board member will be responsible for keeping the entire planning board and planning staff up to date as to the activities of the committee. We expect to be meeting probably once a month, if not more frequently, at least when we get started up. I also spoke today with our new town accountant about what we would need to do, and I haven't even told John this, in order to set up an account, because we do have money already earmarked for sculpture from Nordblum, and we do hope to get additional money and perhaps do fundraising as well. So he explained to me what we would need to do, and the first thing we need to do is become a formal committee accepted by the planning board. There is some question about, in the future, if we want to become a 501c, and if that were to happen, then the account would be handled differently, but we are not doing that right away off the bat.
So the member from town meeting, we need a town meeting member to ask, and then we appoint, this board appoints?
Well, right now, we have members, not for every position, but we have some that have been coming to regular meetings, so we would want to first appoint those people
Okay,
who are already coming to meetings and participating, but we don't have all of the members yet.
so do you now or sometime later want to nominate these people for the board to appoint?
I think we,
Ultimately, the appointment has to be made by this board then, I guess.
right. If John, I'm not sure if John would agree with this, but I would like to have the board appoint those members that we already have who have
He's a-
requested.
John is a town meeting member, so he'd be the town meeting member.
John would be the town meeting member. He is also the person that we have elected as chair. I am the planning board representative. Currently, Christine Brown is the representative from Recreation, although that may change. Mr. Buckley is our business community member. Who is with library?
The library director.
The library director
Michael.
is,
Michael Will?
Is that,
Michael Wilk, what's his name?
the reason I'm spacing is because he missed the last meeting.
Yes.
So it's a little distant in my brain. Let me see if I can pull it
yes, so
up.
we are still waiting to hear if one of the selectmen would like to join us. We are hoping that he will, and we are also waiting for information back from the schools as to whom they want to appoint.
Have you extended an invitation to school and selectmen yourself or the committee?
The committee has.
Okay.
I just want to say, as your representative to Recreation, that Christine did retire.
I know, and that's why we don't know who's going to take her place. We are actually going to reach out to Christine and see if she would like to recommend whom
Maybe
she
a
thinks
lady?
would be. That's possible. That's right.
I can hear Barbara loud and clear, but Paul, you need to pull your microphone closer.
Thank you.
So
Michael Wick from the library.
Michael Wick. So we have Michael Wick, Barbara LaRue, John Sachs. I guess we should not bother appointing Christine Brown because by the time we have our next meeting, she will no longer be on Recreation. So I don't know if it makes sense. Oh, and Bob Buckley. We could appoint those members tonight, and then the next time we come back, we could appoint the other three.
So if you'd like to make that motion?
I would like to make the motion that, well, first I'd like to make a motion.
No, I just wanted, because I had a conversation with council earlier
Okay.
today, just on the establishment of the committee under the
Oh, okay.
planning board.
Great.
And I don't know if you want to say a few words, but I think it'd be helpful just to understand how it works.
Sure. I think that the chair has actually, and the member Barbara has already said what I was worried about, that actually it has to be appointed by the planning board. So you've taken care of that. So the planning board will make the appointments, and then they will, the subcommittee, so to speak, will report back to the planning
I
board.
guess first we should vote as a body to create the committee
That's correct. And
Yes.
then vote to
and appoint.
appoint the members.
So I would be
Since
looking
you're going to be on the committee, I'll make the motion to appoint
Well,
the,
should we
to
ask,
create the committee
Oh.
first.
should we first, I don't know if we have to ask if there's, if anything else Mr. Sachs would like to say, or if there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak.
I would also say that you should, when you appoint the members, say a term. So for like a year or two, whatever you're going to do, but you should make a term.
Right.
Okay,
So
we got
that
to
it's
be,
clear.
we're going to be looking for these to be three-year terms, so we're going to have to stagger them at
There's
first.
some there's
We are alternating.
some that are 2 and some that are 3. So if
Okay.
you know that now,
Yes.
you can do that now.
I would suggest that
So
the.
let's first create the committee.
Okay.
So,
make a
we-
motion to create the
Sculpture
Sculpture Park Subcommittee.
Committee under the jurisdiction of the planning board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500, Noel.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to list the ones you want to nominate for a 3-year appointment, and then the ones for the 2?
Well, we only have 4 members that we're going to be appointing tonight, so I was going to suggest that we make those 4 3-year appointments, and then the other ones that we appoint later could be the 2-year appointments.
Okay.
So I am going to suggest that tonight, the planning board appoint John Sachs, Michael Wick, Bob Buckley, and Barbara LaRue to 3-year terms, and then there will be other members appointed later.
Second, yes.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained?
I have
So you've got a quorum already.
Great.
All right.
Did you have a
Mr.
question?
I have 2 questions on
Sure.
this issue, if I could.
Of course.
I assume these will be all publicly posted meetings, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And everyone is welcome to attend. In fact, the more people that attend, the better for us. We want the community to be involved in this.
And my second question is for Attorney Mead. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but how easy is it to
Would you mic closer? Ernie?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Jack. How easy is it to establish a 501c corporation? Because if people are going to give money, I think they'd like to see if it could be tax deductible.
Well, if you donate money to the municipality, it's tax deductible.
It is, okay, then it's.
And a 501c3 would make them, then they could no longer be a subcommittee of the planning board or a committee of the town. It would have to be an independent entity.
Okay. No, that's
file
fine, as
particular
long as
things
it's
with the
tax
state.
deductible, and you might want to publicize that, because I didn't know that.
Thank you. I didn't know that, Ernie, either. So that was one of the reasons we were considering becoming a 501c, is because we thought that businesses would want to have that tax deduction. But if it doesn't matter, maybe that's an argument to not do the 501c.
We should talk to the treasurer and the accountant about that,
Okay.
just to close the door on that. But if it became a 501c3, it could not be a subcommittee
Okay.
of the planning board.
And it would
Thank you.
have certain filing requirements annually,
Correct.
which is a pain in the
Correct.
neck.
Right, and also, that's actually one of the things that the town accountant told me, is that if we became a 501c, then we would have our own separate account. It would not be held by the town and
Correct.
managed by the town, which I think there is some benefit to having the town hold the funds.
By comparison, the Dog Park Committee has 2 committees. One is part of the town through rec. They also have a completely separate 501c3 that allows them to go for grants. And we're going to look down the road and see whether a completely separate creation needs to be created. Obviously, it's a lot more work, and it's not the first thing we're going to look at. We believe that the business community here will contribute without any significant concern for tax benefits. But in the future, if we were to go to a private granting agency along the lines of the Cummings Foundation, you have to do that as a 501c3. So in the future, we might have to form a separate entity, but that's a future thought.
So when you get your committee fully established, and that can be one of your first discussions at your meeting.
Or third.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a question for staff.
Sure.
The money that we have for the sculpture park already from Nordblom, has that been received or just pledged?
Just
It's pledged, and there's a time frame that it needs to be received, so,
But in a-
which is,
in a meeting we had with them, a year ago or 6 months ago with.
not a year.
6 months, yeah.
They said that, well, there was a term limit on it, but they would still be open to extending that pledge date, so.
Yeah, but they were waiting for this, kind of.
Right.
They were formally, I'm gifting it to this group for this purpose. So I think this step will make it pretty
Okay.
easy to
Right.
receive those funds.
Well, I think the next step is for me then to speak with our town accountant and have him establish an account, and then we can go to Nordblom and ask them to give us the funds to put in that account.
I should point out that this committee would have dual responsibilities. One is, in the case of a semi-private, the Nordblom sculpture idea is that they are granting money to put a sculpture on actually a public piece of land. It's an easement for them to do that. But that grant requires the creation of a sculpture committee, which would be this committee. In a separate and related, and in the future, if other developers or owners who wanted to do the similar thing. The Sculpture Park Committee is already in place to make that happen. There is a separate and parallel project, which is to create a municipal sculpture park somewhere in and around town center, to be determined by the committee and with the approval of every other official group in town, where that would actually
Well,
happen.
if it's public land, the selectmen control it.
Right.
Well, Simon's Park, we understand is under the control of rec, whereas a lot of the land, the
Technically, it's under
common
the
is under
control
the
of the
selectmen.
Simon's Trust, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that would get ironed out when we decide where we would like it to go. And so there's two levels of responsibility here.
Well, we'll trust you guys to work that out.
We'll do our best.
Just
Paul?
make a correction. Because the recreation uses Simon's Park so much, but we do it all through the selectmen, really. In other words, they issue to us that they really have control of all the land, they're responsible for it, but we work closely with them, so there's no problem with that, but it is the selectmen.
I
As far
should
as I
also
know.
point out that we presented to planning a while ago and also presented to the selectmen over a year ago about the concept of Sculpture Park, and their response would sound like a good idea. It wasn't central enough to their mission that they wanted to pursue it on their own or create the subcommittee. So we spent a year or two muddling about, meeting informally, and then it was determined that the planning board would be the best parent for this subcommittee. So, we've already spoken with the selectmen within the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
you,
for all
John.
your work, John.
And thank you
Yeah.
to the board for your support.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, if we go back to the announcements.
Announcements.
Yes, please.
The town election is Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Burlington High School. I hope there's a large turnout.
Good luck, Carol.
Thank you.
Also, the water ban is now in full effect.
Is that do you know the details of that?
I do not.
Neither do I.
It's a complete water ban.
No outdoor watering at all.
None.
I know
Not
on
even
the
hand
front
watering?
page, the front page of our website, there's now a link, so anyone
Okay.
who wants to learn more about it, you can straight.
It may have something to do with our new MWRA.
I think you're right,
connection.
Jack.
The zoning bylaw review committee will meet Tuesday, April 9th at 6:45 in the Town Hall Annex Basement Meeting Room. Tuesday, not Wednesday, that's unusual, it's usually Wednesday, so just highlighting that. Household hazardous waste collection, Saturday, April 13th from 8:30 to 12. I'm glad Burlington's still doing that. Most of our towns on the North Shore, I feel like it's every other year, they are not accepting a whole
Bless you,
bunch,
Carol.
but in Burlington, it's not that many restrictions. And I'm sorry, that's at the Francis Wyman Elementary School.
I think-
And then, yep, and I already announced Attorney Mead.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if I can, because I think I made the same mistake. The zoning.
You want to pull the
bylaw-
microphone so
zoning-
people can hear that?
Thank you. The zoning bylaw review committee, I think the committee that's meeting on the 9th might be the general bylaw review committee.
Oh, is that what, I think Liz took it from the calendar.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
it's, is it incorrect on the town calendar
Mr.
potentially?
Parsons, who's on that committee, is it meeting Tuesday, the 9th, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I
To be
have-
corrected when we get to Article 12.
Oh, Okay.
That's all I have unless anyone else has anything.
May I just say thank you while we're doing announcements?
Sure.
My lovely wife ended up in the emergency room a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to thank the people. I mean, people have brought food and cards and everything else, and she's doing well. She's off oxygen and starting to get out, so yeah, so she's doing okay. But thank you very much to those who may be watching or listening.
just checked. The town,
Good.
Yeah.
the town calendar does say bylaw review committee, but not the zoning bylaw
Oh.
review committee, for 6:45 PM on the 9th. Right, Ed? Okay,
So no, bylaw review committee.
sorry, I made the same mistake.
Sorry,
so-
sorry.
So it's the bylaw review, not the zoning bylaw
Right,
review.
as far as I know, it's on the 24th.
Okay.
Oh, 24th. You're right. In just other announcements in relation to the rest of our agenda, I have reached out to Member Gaffney, and I know he's not feeling well, and I did mention if it was possible for him to attend for a short period of time, and that time being between 7:30 and 8, or 7:30 and 7:50 is actually what I said. So, but it is 7:30, so it's,
I spoke with him, I don't think you'll see him, and I don't think you want to really. No, really, he's,
Sounded bad?
no, yeah, it's one of those things that you can pass it around easily, but no. He
None
was,
of us would be here next meeting.
no, he was croaking and coughing and, ugh.
Well, we wish Bill a speedy recovery.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, would you like a motion on the first matter of appointment?
Do we want to wait until 8:57?
Okay,
well, I said
so
between
I guess
8:30.
at this point, without opening matter,
Oh,
I think it's prudent to continue it, given that there's only 5 members here and it does involve a special permit.
I would agree.
Okay, so we need a motion to take item 7.
I
I
have a
think
question.
Mr. Vaughn might have.
What happens in the event that I
I'm not successful?
am not
That,
reelected?
my understanding is
Then
that we
there
would
will be
have a
6
board
people.
of 7, but only 6 would be able to vote.
That's right.
Correct.
Well, because this is now, oh, if it's continued, because,
If we
okay.
continue
So-
without discussion,
Yeah.
they
No
don't miss the
one,
meeting.
no one has missed testimony, so you should,
I just-
you should announce what we're talking about, sorry.
Well, I just don't want to get into the merits of
No, we won't.
of the topic, because then it becomes a meeting that 2 people missed. So I want to deal just procedurally with what we've got.
Right.
Yes.
No, but you can still,
What's the matter?
you can
Yeah.
still announce the matter, we can still
Oh,
continue.
right. I
And
just
just
want,
by announcing it
upfront,
doesn't
we
make
know
it-
that.
Yep.
And so at this point, yes, I'll accept your motion, take items 7A, B, and C together. A second on that?
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to take items 7A, B, and C together for discussion purposes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 500 as well.
And what is,
And then if you.
Oh, these are the continued public hearing application for approval of special permit pursuant to section 4.2.5.10, automobile dealership which may include integrated structured parking of the zoning bylaws, 64 Cambridge Street, Herb Chambers, Cambridge Street LLC applicant, and continued public hearing application for approval of a site plan, 64 Cambridge Street, Herb Chambers, Cambridge Street LLC applicant, and continued discussion, application approval of minor engineering change, I believe that's 62 Cambridge Street, not 64?
yes, 62.
Am I correct? It says 64 here in my paperwork, but it's 62, is it
Oh.
not?
That's correct.
62
Yes,
Cambridge
yeah,
Street,
yes.
okay, that's 62 Cambridge Street, Herb Chambers LLC applicant.
Because on the
Agendas.
agenda, it's correct. And then you might want to make a motion for continuance and then discuss the motion,
Yes.
so you're not.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue these matters to the planning board meeting of April 18th, 2019.
Second.
Oh,
Oh,
and you
oh,
want to talk
Oh,
about
so,
the
sorry.
yeah,
question?
second for discussion, sure.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for discussion purposes. Discussion.
What seems to be the problem?
The problem is we have only 5 members.
Okay, that's fine, I just want
One is
everybody
sick
to
and one
realize.
is out of town.
And we need 5
We
members.
need 5, yes.
Positive votes for.
Right. And it's risky to go forward
Yeah.
needing 5 and having only 5 present.
I would be in favor of continuing it, but it's obviously up to the applicant. Or not obviously, it's up to us, really.
It's up to us, but, we can accept the applicant's request or whatever.
Sure.
Can I just, again,
Use the microphone, please.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I'm not looking to offer any testimony on it, but just procedural question. So it'll be the 18th. May I ask, I think that's April school vacation week. I don't think that affects anyone on the board, but would everyone be present on the 18th, as best we know?
I
We can
will
only
be.
speak for those 5 here.
Will be.
You won't be here?
I mean, I will be. The only person that has a child, a
Young child.
school-aged child is Bill. Oh, and you do too,
I
but you
do
said
too, but
you're going
I
to be
would-
here.
I would be here.
Okay. So,
Bill was the only question.
and actually Joe has one as well, but seeing as
doing
he's
school
not this week,
vacation
I'm
week this
pretty
week.
sure that he'll be here
It's
next
in a
week.
different school calendar.
Yes.
Okay, look, I appreciate all the time and effort of the board thus far, and wouldn't want to, with just 5 members sitting, I think that's the prudent.
And we didn't know this until shortly after 6 PM tonight,
Understood.
the illness. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had you here or our own town council.
Well, Bill is very diligent, and, I think he wanted to come if he could,
Yes.
but
To Carol's question, so we hope, but, we'll see. But, so no one yet has missed testimony.
Okay?
We're not taking testimony tonight, so Bill won't have missed, because we continued the last time that Joe wasn't here. So we don't have a Mullins issue with any of you sitting. And then, and Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, if we had a different member, they could not participate because they haven't been here. They couldn't Mullins because they weren't here to be able to Mullins. If they
You can only mull in one meeting.
re-advertise, if they re-advertised, would that change what they could do? Or would that not be possible and we'd have to go through the whole
No,
thing
you-
again?
if you re-advertise, you could reset the board, but all the testimony would have to be.
Have to start from scratch.
All right, so,
So if there's a different member,
yeah,
then there's a board as constituted of 7, but only 6 that can participate, and so it's, for a special permit, it would be a supermajority of the board is
Right.
constituted.
As constituted.
so it'd still be 5,
5 absent.
Correct.
yeah. So, and to re-advertise to reset, you'd need to go through the whole process, all the
We'd have to
testimony.
retake all the testimony, all the evidence, all the reports.
Right.
I was just laying out all the options on the
Don't
table.
think
so-
anyone wants to go through all that again.
No, I'm sure we're as anxious as the applicant to get this matter concluded.
That's a debate as to who's more anxious.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so
Yeah,
there'll
that's-
be 6,
Potentially.
there are 7 of you, potentially, worst case 6.
Who can vote?
If we have a
Correct.
full board, and
Everyone's
I
present.
don't, no one has
Barring
told me
any
they're not
unexpected
going to
absences,
be
yes.
here in the future, but we had unexpected absences tonight, so,
Okay.
or this week, rather.
Okay, this is purely a procedural matter. It's been moved and seconded to continue the 7A, B, and C to the April 18th, did you say?
Yes.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained,
Excuse me,
5-0.
Mr. Chair, at a time certain, date and time certain, you need to say a time.
Other than just a date?
That's correct.
You want a time also?
7 PM.
Sure.
Oh,
Okay.
se-
Sounds
seven,
good to me.
yeah, on or after 7 PM.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for keeping
So-
us straight.
That's 5-0, Noel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's good to see council here.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we now? The next item on our agenda.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Nice to meet you.
Sorry we didn't know sooner what we were going to do.
It's always a nice drive.
Well, it's easier now than it would have been at 5.
Take care.
Thank you. Where are we here?
Is,
Page 23, Mr. Chairman.
23,
23.
item 7D. Public hearing, petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 12, Plan Development District, and to create a new section 12.5.0, existing plan development districts, to modify the review process for plan development districts submitted by the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. Does Ed have one of these?
You'll probably have extras.
Yep.
We do.
You get to sit at the table.
All righty. This is, I think most of us have seen this information, discussed it, and I think at our last meeting, your chair was here, Sherry Ellis, to discuss this. Staff, if you want to give a brief overview so people at home and
I will, and I would certainly look to the member of the, Ed Parsons, the member of the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, to fill in anything that I may miss. The Zoning Bylaw Review Committee is looking to insert their existence and authority in the Plan Development District review process, which is part of their, their mandate and purpose for becoming a committee to review any zoning amendments to the zoning bylaw, including plan development districts. The newly, or the 2012 amendment to the plan development district created a review process and committees that would be involved in that process, and that at that time was just the land use committee. The land use committee had been the committee to look at zoning amendments as well as land use and rezonings. But in the presentation that has went to town meeting and that we've heard from Sherry at this board, that it sounds like it's going to be that land use is looking at, still look at zoning, rezonings of properties, and bylaw review will be looking at the bylaw amendments. I would encourage both of those committees to kind of codify that presentation of duties. I know Zoning Bylaw Review has done a lot of that in their mission statements, but I don't think land use has updated to kind of review their role and the differences between their roles. Just from a kind of a procedural perspective, in terms of if someone comes in, it's okay, you go to this committee for this and this committee for this, and everybody's on the same page. But in terms of this amendment, it really simply is adding the zoning bylaw review into the application review and requirements of review and distribution of information, as well as agreements with the applicant. And the second piece of it is to add a new section 1250 to list the existing plan development district, so therefore they actually become included in the zoning bylaw by reference rather than right now. I mean, if you didn't know, no one would know that there's plan development district. So it helps us really link the full picture of zoning throughout Burlington. And I know Ernie and I, at least when you were chair, we talked a lot about this and trying to make sure we could have all those, the districts in one place to understand, and also starting with, I think when you were chair, we started putting them on our website to allow people easier access to the information. So that would be my summary. If Ed Parsons has anything to add, I would welcome that.
Oh, that's a good summary. There are only two components, and that's to insert the zoning bylaw review committee when committees to review
Can you
changes.
pull that mic just a little closer, please?
Pardon me.
Thank you.
The first component of the change is to insert the zoning bylaw review committee whenever committees to review changes are enumerated. The second is to explicitly reference the plan development districts just to ensure a consistent nomenclature and to make explicit the inclusion rather than to have that be implicit. This was something that we heard from the planning department as a source of potential and actual confusion when reviewing the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
We do not have any concern with the proposal and would recommend favorably to this board to recommend.
All right, discussion, members?
I have no questions. It makes sense to me.
Paul?
No, I was glad that when you referenced land use, because I believe this probably started at land use several years ago because of some unhappiness with the way a planned development district came to them. And so I'm glad to see those. I might say this was part of my concern way back when, because I voted against the PDDs when that came before us. Like Trammell Crow, I think, was the first one. But I thought that it was kind of presented to town meeting that here it is, and the development was already there and designed and everything else, and it's not the kind of thing that you can amend at town meeting. I mean, that would be just, it wouldn't work. So I'm pleased to see this.
Good, thank you. Carol?
No, I think this is good.
I think I asked this question before of staff. Are we going to electronically link them, or we weren't for some reason? I forget. In other words,
Could you pull that mic closer so everyone can hear your question?
the zoning bylaw that's printed on, or that you can read online, is there going to be a link from the 12.5.0 to each of the individual PDFs of these? Or I know there's
I think-
some question about, some of them done quite a while ago might be,
No, I think that's the goal, is
Okay,
to,
okay,
you know,
good.
obviously, some of them are
Thank you.
neater and tidier than others. And some of the original ones just, you know,
Okay,
they're
just-
they're, but the goal is to not just list them, but also have in the electronic document to have the PDF link. I'm hesitant to put any of that type of language in the bylaw itself, but for
Oh, yeah,
ease
no,
of
no, no.
access, that's the goal.
so right now, if anybody wants a copy of these, they can request it from who? Us, town?
Right
town
now,
clerk?
80% of them are up on our website, just with links. You can go to the PDs, and they're
Great.
right there. There's the, actually, they're all,
Are they all,
the-
10 of them? Yeah.
well, there's I know the Grandview with the Trumbull Crow Corporate Drive one's a little glitchy, but that was just one of the earlier ones that just, it's not easy and
Okay.
nice to put
Yep.
in. But anyway, most all of the active PDs you can access today from our website. But with this, if you're looking at the zoning bylaw, which a lot of people are, and as I mentioned, that we're getting so many calls for people doing refinancing and capital coming into the market, that a lot of people are just asking questions, like, I looked at your zoning bylaw, and I'm looking at this piece of property, and I can't find any information. So it's just really kind of putting a better roadmap to the information we need of the land use regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All set.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience? Somebody hiding in one of the chairs. I don't know if they want to speak. You all set, Ed?
I am, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second.
Third. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500, Noel.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 12, Plan Development District, and to create a new Section 12.5.0, existing plan development districts, to modify the review process for plan development districts, submitted by the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee.
Second?
Do we want to say the planning board recommends favorably instead of just to recommend favorably?
Yes, sure.
I would just add that as part of the motion, please.
Sorry, what was the modification?
Just the planning board
The
recommends.
planning board recommends favorably. Just so that.
So be it.
you- Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500.
And Mr. Chairman, I would like to compliment Mr. Parsons' children on being very, very patient with this long, boring, grown-up meeting.
And very well behaved is at that, too.
Yes, indeed.
All righty. Next.
Make a motion to take items 7E, F, and G together for discussion purposes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take items 7E, 7F, and 7G together for discussion purposes. All in favor?
Bless you.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? That's 500. Public hearing, petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article
Now I got into that.
7, Section, is that correct? Section 8 point, sounds wrong to me. Item
Well, it's a
E on
section,
page
yeah.
24, it says
Oh, yeah,
Article,
it should be I.
should be Article 8. Fine, Section 8.4.0, wireless communication facilities to include small cell wireless facilities submitted by the planning board. 7F, public hearing, petition to amend the special permit rules and regulations to include design standards for utilities such as small wireless communication facilities with the acronym SWCF, submitted by the Planning Board.
Got one for you, Carol.
And public hearing, petition to amend the site plan rules and regulations to include design standards for utilities such as small wireless communication facilities, submitted by the Planning Board.
I am passing down to you.
You got
Think I
one?
have enough? Okay, maybe one
Get
more.
one, too.
The
Two. Oh, no,
Draft.
there's two pages there.
There's two sections.
Okay.
Does everyone have one? Okay.
Yep.
Two sections. The top is the draft Town of Burlington Small Wireless Facility Design Rules and Regs. The one underneath is the application for small cell wireless installations and the checklist the checklist and cover sheet for
Yeah.
applications. So,
That now?
Miss-
You know, can we just put this on the table, Mr. Murphy, so he doesn't have to sit there and listen to this, unless you're terribly interested in the small cell, Tom?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
so
all right.
Okay,
Continue.
thank you. I just didn't want you,
Right.
So it's all good, right?
All righty.
If you fall asleep, we'll wake up.
All right, I'm sorry. Resume, please,
no,
staff.
that's okay. So these are the two documents. The,
Can you do a little history?
yep, that's what I was gonna do.
Okay,
So,
sorry. Okay.
the FCC put out some pretty strict guidelines that were in effect January.
Guidelines or a mandate?
Mandate,
Yep.
that were in effect January 14th, 2019. However, they gave communities till April 14th, 2019, to adopt design guidelines. And design guidelines is one of, so they said, you must allow these, you must allow them within a 60-day shot clock, all your local permits, pretty much can't say no to them, and, but, you can adopt design guidelines and application criteria of what you need to have a complete application and what you're looking for it to look like. So, many communities are racing toward this goal. And many of us, not at all being experts on small cell wireless technology because it evolves every single day. We actually met with AT&T yesterday. And, just picking their brain the whole time of, what do these look like? What are you working on? What is it, does it have to look like this? Can it look like this? And I mean, they pretty much said things are changing every day. And there are more and more companies, streetlight companies, and, pole companies, and all these other infrastructure companies that are trying to race, knowing that telecommunications companies have a lot of money to try to spend to get 5G up and running. They want to use their product to hopefully, integrate it into existing infrastructure. So, that's a good sign, but we're not quite there yet. So, what we're trying to do is, at least in this version 1.0, to get the basics of concealment to make them not look like boxes stapled on a pole, and, obviously not to have them on double poles, not to have placement within the middle of sidewalks and ADA issues. So what you see in these two documents is that. And the way that the way that the review process will take place is that within the right-of-ways and streets, the selectmen will continue to be the permitting authority for any of these technologies within the right-of-way, on poles on the right-of-way, on light poles in the right-of-way. However, the planning board will be the review and permitting authority for anything within on private property. So therefore, it was decided from the committee that we would look to create the same guidelines, but place them in our different jurisdictional places. And also look to, so the question was, what can we do before April 14th and where do we put them? Where do we park these regulations so we are sure to have the correct jurisdiction over the aesthetic review? And for each group. So that, for us, is in the site plan rules and regs and the special permit rules and regs. So that's why you see F and G as those two bodies. So what we're looking today to do is take these documents and vote to put these documents in those two documents until such time And they may always stay in those documents, but we also want to amend Article 8, which I don't want you to vote on tonight, but amend Article 8 to actually create a small cell regulations, to therefore kind of make it cleaner and simpler as to the, as I mentioned before, the roadmap of if you're going to do this, this is how you do it, instead of having things all over the place. But since we need to adopt something by the 14th, we need to make sure we adopt the site plan and special permit criteria to add these documents in those areas tonight. And then likely and also the Board of Selectmen on Monday will vote to adopt these documents into their regulations that they've already created and posted publicly as a hearing. And then also, we're moving to Maytown meeting for the general bylaw as well as the zoning bylaw to insert some of this, or not necessarily insert the rules and regs, but assert the authority for the rules and regs. So what we are asking you to do tonight, and I'm happy to go through a little bit more of the details, but is to adopt a process that allows us to get as much information as possible in the application to make sure that all permits, every single thing we need, all the structural analysis, all the siting requirements are done upfront before the shot clock starts in the application. And then in the design regs, say if you're going to build it, it needs to look like this, it needs to be concealed, it needs to be the kind of these more attractive installations and not impede pedestrian and other flow along our roadways. So that's what you see. I can, with full confidence, say that we'll be looking probably to update these within the next year as we continue to learn what is this, what's working, what's not working, and really just continuing to shape the regulations as much as we can against the mandates that we have from the FCC. So that's where we are.
In the staff recommendation, you're saying to recommend favorably. To whom are we recommending favorably?
Oh, no, it should say, I'm sorry,
It's for us to adopt.
to adopt.
Okay.
This is like a Chinese fire drill.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, sorry, it's,
Okay, so
yeah.
now,
And then.
on one of them, item E, we're continuing.
Yep, so above this, it should say motion to continue item E until the next meeting. And then the second motion is motion to adopt
F and G.
F and G into the special permit rules and the site plan rules.
Okay.
So I
So
apologize.
since that's all so terribly clear to everybody, let's start with questions. Barbara?
Well, there's a lot to absorb, but one of the questions I had,
Which stuff are you referring to now? About the pretty picture in the front or the other one? One, the picture in the front, okay.
pretty picture. I'm talking about, starting on page 5, going on to page 6, where it's talking about preferable locations. I think I'm trying to figure out how this actually will impact anything by saying we prefer these locations, we don't prefer those locations. It's not actually telling them they can't locate in those other areas. It's not even saying you have to prove that you must locate in that particular location and that you could not accomplish your purpose in a more preferable location. So I don't really know, I guess I'm not sure what teeth it has. So what's to stop someone from saying, okay, well, we know you prefer to be it in a commercial district, but I want to put it in the residential district, so that's what I'm doing it. You know, because there's nothing here that says they can't. There's nothing even here that says you may have to jump through some additional hoops or prove that it was necessary in this less desirable location.
Yes, and part of that, and as I said, this is an evolving.
I understand that.
Understanding process, and also kind of a, who has started to do this, who isn't, and who's doing it well, and even this, it shouldn't say historic downtown commercial district where, it should, but part of it is because we can't. I mean, the mandate right now, until some of the case law gets sorted out, is
We can't
tell
say
people
no.
they
But
can't.
could we make it, or could we at least, I don't know, it seems like maybe there's some way to put language in there that would say if you want to locate in one of these less desirable locations, you have to explain why you must be there instead of in the more desirable locations.
Yeah, let me just get to it.
Something in the
There- It's in the
application process.
application, but it's also in, not stealth. Sorry, items A, B, and C took a lot out of me this week, and this was
I'm not suggesting, I don't know how to fix it. It just, that's something that's causing me concern, because it seems like they could, a big business could just come in and say, well, we don't really care what you prefer, this is where we want to go. Because a preference is not a very strong restriction.
I agree. I agree, and I agree to note it, and I agree that we should, we should be as stringent as as possible to get as much control as we can. Unfortunately, it's, the way it's written, the mandate is so strong, and that's why there's people that have appealed all across the country as to, what are we going to do with this? Because also the fear is, and the kind of risk here is that these are small cell wireless, which by definition, that they have a range of about 50 to 100 feet. So that if you want full coverage,
You'd have to have them everywhere.
I mean, when you think of this, they're everywhere. So as we talked about it with the committee, is we're not going to solve this in one day, but what can we put in place to make sure we've actually at least put things in up front to give people an indication of what we're looking for and our preferences, to give an indication of that we really want to mandate concealment of all of this equipment. And also, if you see in here that there's requirements to kind of give us your larger plan, not just like, tell us, if you want this pole, what are you looking for? Are you looking for this pole here because, you need coverage, or what's your bigger plan? And so at that point, we can hopefully, throughout the discussion, have okay, well, if you're looking for this now, and we would do this piece now in this area, and, hold off on that. In the application, each application can only have up to 5 locations, and each carrier or, individual entities, if there's like this carrier and there's 6 entities, those 6, any of those 6 entities can only put 2 applications per, is it 2?
60 days.
2, yeah,
2
2
in 60 days,
applications
yes.
per 60 days. So it's not like someone can come in for 100 applications all at once. So at least, I think, and I'm completely hearing your concern, and I think we all have kind of these concerns. We're trying to ebb the flow all at once. So, I mean, in these regulations are specifically regulations that only need to be advertised for this board and not go to town meeting. So that makes them a lot more flexible and pliable as we continue to learn more and what we can enforce and put in. So I encourage you to continue to ask a lot of questions, and I can encourage you to try to learn more about it, and I encourage us to continue to update this as we move forward, but I want to also stress that we very much need to adopt version 1.0.
I know we wrestled with this in
So-
committee, but, as Barbara's asking the question, I'm thinking, the and we're currently not allowed to mandate, but could we add something there, the following are the most preferred for new cell wireless in order, but later, if we are allowed to mandate, the permitting authority shall require justification to their satisfaction, something along those lines.
Sure. Yeah, I can make that adjustment.
That would be, so if our inability to impose a requirement goes away and something happens in the FCC or some type of a case, we are already in place with some more control. If we have some language we put in there.
They have to be recertified every year, so we could, if it changes.
Well, I don't know if we could change the conditions with the recertification.
We can put it in there.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, we
it
can put it in
helps.
there, it'd make it thrown
I
out,
think the best
but
thing for us to do is just keep our ear to the ground as to
Yes.
how this is evolving, and open it, I mean, once you adopt this, we could open it a month from now and continue to change it.
Yeah.
And if we have advertised it, then that change can be accommodated in any of the upcoming applications. So, but the critical thing is just you don't meet again before the 14th.
Get this starting point.
To get this starting point in, so we at least have a base rules and regs, and then continue to hone it into what we need to.
We did have a consultant, Attorney Donna Brewer, whose firm has been basically the leaders in Massachusetts at helping communities adopt such regulations. So we didn't just make these up on our own and with a guess and a hope. We actually had an experienced authority assist us in this.
Yeah, and one of the biggest challenges is that we need to dance between this place of, and a lot of communities are struggling with this, is that you don't want to, you can always, try it until it's tested, but you don't want to test it, so then it's all thrown in, then
We don't
all
want to
of a
force,
sudden
we
it's
don't
all
want to be
thrown
the
away.
test case.
Well, no, but that you push too far, when you know there's a mandate, you push a little bit too far, and then all of a sudden none of it's all too far. So you have this balance between, you want to make sure it holds up, as well as kind of make sure that it gives us enough control to make sure that it also has as much teeth as possible, as Barbara's bringing up. So we'll learn a lot more every day that goes by.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure, please.
When we did the last iteration with the cell towers, people came in, they said, we're going to put cell towers all over the place, wherever we want and so forth. And we said, well, and so we hired a consultant who drew us a map, and had all the expertise. And that was quite straightforward. We said, we even put things in there, if these poles are no longer needed, you have to take them down and so forth. And so I haven't heard, I don't have that kind of information, or we haven't done that yet. I don't know if there's time to do it.
There is
But-
stuff in there that they have to maintain them up to the standard, and if they're no longer operational
Right.
or obsolete, they've got to
Right.
remove them within 60
But
days.
This consultant was at a subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
'cause
The
I
subcommittee
missed
under
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
missed that.
it's
yeah.
it's not a planning board subcommittee, it was a subcommittee formed by the
Select.
selectmen. I was on it,
Okay.
Krista was on it. Jim Tigas, Selectman Tigas ran it.
So does this come from the selectmen to us, since they're the ones that are, most of the time, planning falls into our purview?
Well, we are adopting our rules and regs, and they are adopting and they are adopting within their rules and regs, because they are the licensing authority
But we're adopting the
for
same
the
thing.
ones in the public way, which was, Verizon did submit an application to have some of these in the public way. They withdrew.
But if they're going to have to be as close as I understand.
100 feet,
They're going to be in people's backyards and everything else. I mean,
private property.
yeah. Well, people are going to come and say, look, we'd like to put this thing in your backyard, and we'll pay you $100 a month or $500 a month. Because there's not much distance, is there, with this 5G technology?
No,
No,
it's,
but I've actually been doing a lot of reading on it, and I see that there are some people that say 100 feet, believe it or not, and then there's some people that, I've been doing a lot of research and reading on it,
Yeah.
because it's something I'm interested in
Yeah.
anyways. And there, some of the literature that I've been reading changes, like, I'll read something that might have been January 2018, and I'll read something February 2019, and they'll be in
different.
conflict, and I think, I know somebody knows what's going on, but I think a lot of the stuff written out there, they don't seem to know. For instance, there's a firm out of Texas that said, oh yeah, there's a lot of noise about it being only 100 feet, but we think we can get to 1,000, so, and da-da, so it's
Well,
really
part of it's so
emerging
competitive,
technology.
Because there was a thing on, when I was listening to my radio today out walking, that somebody, I guess it's Verizon, has set up the first 5G thing somewhere.
Yeah,
And so that's a big feather in their cap,
In
and,
St. Louis or
Yeah,
someplace.
Texas.
yeah, so that all the
I think
companies
it
are
was
gonna be.
East.
Pardon me?
I think it was East St. Louis. There was something, I heard the same story,
Oh, yeah.
and I said, East St.
Verizon.
Louis.
Well-
St. Louis?
Yeah,
They may be dead enough.
Missouri.
But the thing
was
is,
also-
5G doesn't, like, there isn't a 5G thing yet, really.
Oh, well,
So
yeah.
it's
Well,
setting
not
it
in
up
the
the
United States.
infrastructure.
It's
Nokia-
coming.
Nokia
No, no,
had- Nokia and
they have,
Siemens.
they know it's
Siemens.
coming, but
And
commercially available
The
is.
big deal,
if I may
Paul.
just finish.
Go ahead. Yeah,
In,
sorry.
in the previous iteration, they said, you can't put this within this distance of a school or whatever, because, and so, you know, can you put this in your backyard, or are there safety conditions?
Much
as
lower.
far as these are concerned?
As you recall, for the cell towers, we were not allowed to deny because of health and safety reasons. Same applies here. However, we were allowed to create reasonable zones for it and say it's restricted to these zones.
Yeah,
That had to do with proving lack of coverage. Here, with these things where they're claiming the coverage is only 100 feet, how do you zone?
that's me in the house next door.
That's
But
correct, that's every
That's
house.
the things that are going to be everywhere.
Well, yeah, but economically, if
Based
you think
upon the
about it, they
technology
can't.
they're pushing today, yes.
Yeah, but they could, they really, if you, logically, say each one costs $1,500. They can't put them every 100 feet.
Yeah, no.
Not
that would be
everywhere.
Crazy.
You know, it would be crazy.
They're
And they're-
primarily
and to
looking,
Paul, to answer your question, Paul, they're much lower powered than the cell
Mm-hmm.
towers. But
yeah, the range.
Well, we just got an answering machine, so that's my technology.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, I had actually sent Kristen an email, I don't know if you got it, but everything, I noticed,
Did you send it by 5G?
no, I sent it I didn't even send it by 4G.
it
actually.
came so fast, I missed it.
In here you talk about power output and ask them what the power output is in the application.
Yes.
Could we also add frequency to that?
There is, that's the RFF and MIMO, RUFO, or whatever it is.
I don't know, because we actually spell out remote radio units, RRUs,
Which number?
count and
where
power.
are
I'm
you?
looking at, on page 2,
Remote radio units.
under,
Of the application or of the?
yes, on
Yep.
the application,
So
V
you want frequency,
and frequency.
and I would also add capacity. Yesterday, when I met with AT&T, they talked a lot about capacity.
Well, that's the whole thing of 5G, increased
Well,
capacity.
you asked that question in here someplace. It says number of calls or number of units or something like that.
Well, but expected. So what we talked about yesterday was that there's, you know, if you're at the Burlington Mall, your data, even though it might be 5G, if 1,000 people are using the same 5G, it's going to be a lot slower than if you're somewhere else and there's
Nobody else
100,
around.
or 2 people, or
So
10
that's
people.
what
You've got
many
call
more can.
capacity in the,
Yeah,
8
call
lines up from
capacity, right.
the bottom of page 2.
Yeah.
Does that cover what you're asking for?
No, I was asking for frequency.
Frequency?
She was asking frequency, yeah.
Because,
Wasn't there somewhere else they were required to have an engineer give those specifications?
Yeah, a little bit. It just, from what we
Because-
learned yesterday, there's a, so if a carrier like AT&T comes in, or Verizon, they know that, like, how much each phone, each thing is gonna take. So therefore, they could tell you that if I have this here, I could cover
This many
this many
users.
things based on the technology I have right now, or our optimal technology, because they're gonna come in and say that we need to put this here because we have all this optimal technology, but we can't use it because we don't have the capacity within the systems around us. So, it's an equation that I hadn't really thought about as much, because it's not exactly the
Where
same
would you
way
put
as.
that in the specifications here?
somewhere where it's asking for, where it mentions power,
Yeah,
it should say operating frequency of the RRUs. Because,
Where are you in,
it's down at,
what page are, first of all?
I'm on page 2.
Okay,
Yeah, so, yeah, you're
Section
on.
8, I believe, VII, Jack, under C.
yeah.
VII.
Coverage area, equipment including amount of antennas, antenna model, antenna length, radio units, antenna height, typical coverage area radius. You want power?
Yes. Well, the power's already there, but I'd like to modify that power too as to operating power and maximum power.
Okay.
Will different carriers be going at a different frequency?
Yes, because they bid for the bandwidth.
Yes, so I think that's reasonable to ask for the
And
frequency.
The reason I'm really throwing that out there is because as the technology evolves and they get higher and higher in frequency, they're in what they call the millimeter frequency range right now, gigahertz. Right now, our phones operate like a 900 megahertz.
The higher the frequency, the shorter the range.
Higher the frequency, the shorter the range, and the shorter the wavelength.
Yes.
So it's difficult for it to penetrate building. Our microwave ovens operate up in these frequencies.
Yes.
So even though we're not supposed to deal with health, I think it would be good if this application could collect as much information as possible so that if the time comes when somebody comes out with another study and says, you know, if you're above 34 gigahertz, you're being very, very
Yeah, we
shaky.
did put something in there that should the,
Right, the change, but
Right, but at
change.
least.
But we
the
should have
data
the
point-
information.
The data point would be available.
yes,
It's-
right. We would know, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's a small thing, and if they're going to do the rest of this, they'll do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they may challenge all of us and say,
that's fine.
Yeah, but the
So-
more data we have up front,
right,
the better decision we're going to
Well,
make.
they should have that
especially-
data before they hang the thing on a pole.
oh, they will have it.
Yeah.
They will have it. I mean, the unit's going to
Okay,
be
so-
manufactured to operate a certain power and frequency.
So frequency, and what's the, and power?
Operating power
Yep.
and maximum power. In other words, I have a unit here, okay, it's capable of putting out 100 watts, but I'm only going to operate it at 25 watts, Burlington, I'm telling you. But it can be operated at 100, so that,
Well, watts can be the power in or the power out. It can be two different things.
no, you're only really interested in the power out.
Power out,
Yeah,
okay.
and the power in is
Yeah,
different.
wasted energy,
It will-
efficiency, okay.
So Ernie, I'm very happy you're passionate about this.
Oh, I am. It's
I
just,
can say
it's been my hobby forever.
It-
Yeah, I think that's a,
It hasn't
Good
been mine, and
suggestion.
Yeah, I know.
I've been doing this for a couple weeks.
pass that on to the selectmen so they can,
Of course, yeah. They'll be voting on Monday, so I'll make,
they can put it into theirs.
And one other question, Jack, to staff. This says design rules and regulations. Now, when I see the word regulations, I see you must do this. Is that what this is, or I'm regulating you to do this? or-
That's our hope.
yeah.
That's our whole goal, right?
Well, that's our hope. We can't say for sure what we're going to be allowed to get away with.
Because I think that's what we say with the town center, too. Don't we say design rules and regulations?
We do.
Yeah, but if in the regulations you have recommend, I mean, if it says shall, you shall. If you recommend, you can recommend.
Okay.
It's just,
All right, that was
it's
just
not just
a
a-
semantics question.
it's not just guidelines that, hey, I mean, for design criteria, you know.
Okay, so what we're looking for is to continue E until when?
Motion to continue item E until April 18th.
Okay, let's.
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved to second to continue item 7E to our next meeting, which is April 18th, and that is Article 8, Section 8.4.0, wireless communication facilities, as previously read. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500, Noel. Okay, we have item F and item G.
I'm going to make the motion.
We need to vote on them separately.
No.
No, so the motion will read, motion
To
to
adopt.
adopt the
Petition to amend.
special, to
F
the
is-
special,
F is to adopt.
F and G are taken together.
just for F and G together,
All right.
to adopt within the special permit rules and regulations to include design standards for utilities such as small wireless communication facilities, and to amend the, to amend the site plan rules and regulations to include design standards for utilities such as small cell wireless, all submitted by the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. You got all that,
Yep.
Noel? As she
We'll
nods
send-
her head,
We'll
yes.
send it to her.
Have you got that written out as what you said? Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500, Noel.
I just have a question. It says here, favor on the petition,
We changed
will
favor,
mean-
we
Yeah, she
changed
changed it.
recommend
This is
favorably
kind of
to
messed
adopt.
up. But it's also, there's extra words in there.
But it seemed to me, yeah, that there were,
There's extra words. Kristen's going to fix it.
because one petition is capitalized and the other isn't, and
The petition shouldn't be in there in general, so
Yeah,
in the
that's it.
first place. For the zoning piece, it
just wanted to
should.
let you on page. Either although I have no idea
No, I
what's
know.
going on.
I know.
I'm still paying attention. Thank you.
But it's to adopt changes to your regulations to include these.
All right. Continued public hearing, application for approval of a definitive subdivision plan, 108 Muller Road. Edward and Yelena Avitskaya, applicant. Timing's perfect.
I have it right here.
I didn't see it, I didn't print it either.
Did you read it?
Mr. Nelson, good to see you. Mr. Murphy, welcome again, and I guess that's Mr. Avitskaya? Or is that-
This is Mr. Petro, who is
Petro.
Mr. Avitskaya's son-in-law, and his wife is coming in momentarily.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As I'm sure you recall, this is
Please, it's hard to hear.
this has been before, or it's been on two agendas previous to tonight. It's a subdivision plan, land up in 108 Muller Road. It's a large parcel of land that's being proposed to be split to two parcels of land. We got a variance from the Board of Appeals on the frontage issue, and we're before this board as a subdivision approval. The main point of discussion, I think, for the first couple of times has been the access, obviously. The existing access is a 15-foot right-of-way coming from Muller Road.
Can I stop you on that? The
Yes.
right-of-way may be 15 feet, the pavement certainly is not.
That's correct.
I went down there, I'll bet that pavement is 10 to 11 feet wide, and I went down there in a small car. I would hope nobody was coming the other way.
I went in my SUV and it was,
Right, and there's a fence
I
on
think-
one side, so you can't even pull over.
there's a fence on one side and
And
the
the
other
drop-off.
side drops off.
Yeah.
Track.
You can go there.
You're correct, and you're right, it's not paved the full 15 feet. I've had discussion with staff and with my client, and we have a suggestion or a proposal that might mitigate that issue to a certain degree. If I may, as it was just mentioned, there was some topographical and wetlands issues about just making that 11-foot wide driveway 15 feet wide all the way down. But what we...
Are those fences in the right-of-way or on the property line of the adjacent properties, do you know?
According to the plan, they go along the property line. If you're coming in from Muller Road on the left, the paved area goes right along the right-of-way.
So the paved area on the left is right up to the edge of the right-of-way?
Yes.
Okay,
So any expansion to the paved area would have to be on the right as you go in.
which slopes off into a,
It slopes off in
water.
areas, there's wetlands in areas. However, there are a couple of, and I talked to John Keeley about this. What we were thinking, if we could do somewhere between the turn-in on Muller Road and this first house here, expand the...
small widening?
The small widening, so that if I'm pulling into Muller Road, just as this guy happens to be coming out of his driveway, there's a place where I can pull over to let him pass.
Once you get over the hill, it's a straight view. I think it's
Yes.
a straight line of sight.
But we could also do a similar pull-in if the board felt it was up in this area, where there's a little bit more room to work with, and we actually own the real estate.
And there's sufficient safe land, the slope and wetlands John thinks you can do it?
The suggestion we have to go to the conservation with a notice of intent, because obviously with all the wetlands in the area. John's suggestion was just to have that added to the notice of intent, and he said he'd come down and walk the area with us and pick a space where the topography allows it, and, it's not interfering with wetlands. And there's a couple of spots just visually, right at the beginning and along this area here.
Beginning, it'd be a problem because you've got the grade in the line of sight.
Right. So you have to push a little bit of the earth around a little to make it work, but John thought it was doable. He has no problem with it from a Concom standpoint, assuming they can find an appropriate place. My client's obviously willing to do it. It will, in the situation where there's two cars coming in either direction, that will ameliorate that problem. They've worked it out so far over the years, but obviously if we had another house do it, that's just a little bit more traffic, so we certainly understand the concern. But we were going to propose that if the board were to make it a condition that, in conjunction with Concom, we locate a turnout to cover that type of a situation, I think it would help two cars coming at each other at the same time in the
I'm
right way.
thinking for UPS trucks and FedEx and Amazon, they're going to try to go to the house unless you have some type of a lockbox out on the street.
I don't know what they do now. Do you get deliveries up there? They do. I mean, they've had the fire department up there in a medical call once or twice, so you can get those vehicles up. This turns into a T turnaround with this driveway like this, and then they get back out.
When I
So-
went there, I couldn't turn around in the driveway of 108, I think it is, the furthest one in, because there was a car parked in the middle of the driveway.
We did, I went up, I actually took a ride up there also, Jack, with my larger SUV,
Yeah.
the Tahoe, and we were able to turn around by going down into the driveway,
I
almost
did-
behind the
and
house.
then backing,
And then
yeah.
back out and in, but I don't know if the
I don't know
fire
if a
department
UPS
would
truck
be
or
able to do that.
a fire truck could do that.
Well, the fire truck can, because they actually have
Yeah,
done
they
it.
just drive over your lawn. They
Or
don't.
they can,
Right.
or they may have backed out, Tom.
I don't think so. I think they pulled around, but I wasn't there. But in any event, one of the conditions, or one of the concessions, I guess, that we'd be willing to do is put some sort of a turnaround easement in place, just in case,
An
3
easement
years
or
from now,
pavement.
these aren't the in-laws anymore, and
Yep.
the new person buying it has to understand that there's some obligation to that type of a stuff. So
So you're talking an easement or actually build the pavement there, the turnaround?
I believe there's already pavement there. Is it already?
But not sufficient for a large vehicle to turn around.
I think you might have to
Even with a T?
pave the corner.
Yeah, a hammerhead type thing you're talking?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know how wide that is, frankly, but we will,
Or maybe, Jack, just getting rid of the rotary in the middle, and paving that all over. You might be able to do it that way.
Yeah.
Because
get
if
rid
you
of whatever
drove
was in the
across
middle
the
of that.
rotary, you could easily back into the driveway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a larger vehicle. I had no trouble with my small vehicle. but-
No, I mean, even a fire
but if-
truck should be able to do that. If you could drive across the rotary that's there, there's a little,
Yeah, there was
Like
something
a
there.
cul-de-sac, making like a cul-de-sac?
there is a
at the end?
cul-de-sac there right now.
Yeah, but there's
Yeah, but
something in the
It's
middle
very,
of
very
it.
narrow, but there's something in the
Yeah.
middle. So if
Yeah.
a fire truck could drive across that, then he could back into this driveway that exists already.
Yeah.
and turn around. He could.
I have to be honest with you, I'm shocked that the fire department agreed to this.
Yeah.
And the police department too. I'm sorry, it's very narrow.
We should say this.
I drove down there and it was eye-opening.
It was very narrow. I don't disagree. I think one of when we met with the fire, Captain Hannafin, basically what he says is that's there now. So
The house is there.
they can't, it's.
I know,
it's-
but we're
it's-
making it worse.
Yeah, you've increased the
Likely,
possibility of a need to go down there by adding yet another house.
Correct.
And the possibility of conflicts.
Yeah.
That's, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. the fire department said that one extra house, in his opinion, is not the straw that's breaking the
know.
camel's
And
back.
I
Well,
understand
that's
that.
maybe what they said last time, too.
I'm worried about it.
Is there some way we could put some restriction in now that if we give you this one, you can't have any more?
I
no
don't
such
think,
thing.
I don't think it's possible. I did, at the request.
Don't say building lots in Burlington impossible.
We
We-
can,
at the-
put it in, I mean, we have it that it's on the plan, that this is for these lots and lots that are served by this right-of-way, that there cannot be further subdivision of land without coming back to you for an amendment.
It's the same thing.
At
No,
the
no,
re-
I know, but it's just, it's not just you can do it.
Honestly, my
At the
concern
request of
is
staff,
that,
I just ran off a copy of from the assessors maps of the general area, just to show you there is no frontage left
no,
on
I
Muller Road
understand that. I'm
to
not
create
worried
another
about a
lot.
fourth house.
What's the
That's-
frontage left
I'm
before
not,
us, but the
my
variance?
concern is about what you're trying to do right now, and honestly, I understand what you're suggesting, and the first thing I thought of is that people are gonna end up parking there and making those little pull-off areas useless because they're gonna end up parking their car there. And it's fine that everybody there right now gets along, but in the future, when one of these houses sells and the people don't get along, and it's gonna be a problem with the fire department, it's gonna be a problem with the police department, and no one's gonna remember any of this then, and they're all gonna blame the planning board for allowing this. You know it's true.
Language
Is there
can
any
be,
waiver you didn't ask for?
well, most of the waivers, frankly, were ones that you, requirements if you're putting in a roadway,
Right.
streetlights, things like that. That's what all the waivers are about.
Have you given any thought to putting together a homeowners association at least, or not?
We've talked about it. I mean, I know 2 out of the 3 homeowners are okay with it, because they're both here. But
The relatives.
the third one,
Is that 104,
this one here, 106, I believe.
106?
When Josh and I were down there, Mr. Chairman, I picked up Josh because I don't know my way around Burlington. He,
This is in Woburn.
almost. Anyways, we went down there, and we turned around the driveway, and we started back out. And I don't know, how far did we get, Josh, because as we were coming out, there was another car that belonged to the house that's already closer to Muller Road coming in. And he could see us, and we were, I don't know, had we just pulled out of the driveway, maybe 100 feet or so? Maybe it's because we were up a little higher than a regular car, but we saw him pulling in, and he stopped because he didn't know what we were going to do. And then we stopped and, flashed the lights, and he just came down and pulled into his own driveway. And so that kind of made me feel a little more comfortable, but as you say, if different people, but it's almost the same thing if my neighbor on my street, whatever. Anyhow.
They have been doing it for 12 or 13 years, so it's worked so far. I have no problem suggesting and creating a homeowners association. I can't represent you that the third person will sign off on it. My guess is they will, because it benefits them when they go to sell their house as
Doesn't
well.
work unless they do.
And I believe there was going to be potentially some language and conditions in there about not blocking it, privately maintained, all of that type of stuff, which is fine.
Well, it's an easement. They can't park in it. They can just traverse it, I presume.
Correct.
Right, they can't block it, right, yeah.
Does the easement specifically, well, the easement belongs to all of them or just the last house?
The easement,
Or each has a portion of the easement up to their property?
when the easement was created in 1906 or 1908 or something,
That's even before me.
all of this was one big, I
One
think
big
including
piece of
Kelly Farm, with Kelly Farm Road is now, I think that was all the same. So at that point, the right-of-way cut right across the middle of a large parcel. And anybody who bought off of that would have purchased rights over it. Now, I didn't do a title exam of the whole neighborhood, so I can't tell you exactly how many houses, but it's certainly, it'll be certainly the 3 houses that are using this easement.
And the houses on Common.
And this house on Kelly Farm, which is technically on the side, but they access out of Kelly Farm, but technically.
They have rights to the easement even though they have no need to use it.
Correct.
And the fire department can't.
And there's 2 houses off Kelly Farm that have that right?
Just this one here.
Just one. The other one doesn't have rights?
This one here.
Correct.
I think that back title is from the Kelly Farm parcel,
Okay.
not from this parcel.
All right.
And the houses on Cormier probably have rights with it.
The houses on Cormier do as well, too, yes.
But
Next time, promise to bring us an easy one, Tom?
Do my best, Jack,
Tom
sometimes.
never gets the easy ones. Got
Mr.
staff.
Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
So, I don't know, I've also been going back and forth a little bit on this one,
Your
but
choice.
in the last conversation I had with Tom, we kind of outlined all the comments that the board had raised, comments that the police and fire had raised. We did get a new comment from police today, which we will read to you, because I didn't put it in the folder.
Is it in the folder?
No.
Okay.
I do have it on my phone. But so the issues, how do you get down the street when there's two cars that need to pass? The street,
read it, Josh.
the right-of-way is 15 feet, the road's like 11. Variable, but not 15 feet. So I asked Tom, I said, is there ways that you can widen it? And in some places there are, some places you can't. So they looked at it and said, okay, we can make these bump outs. And then police and fire were concerned about the length of the drive and also didn't want the cut-through and said we want a fire hydrant in front of this house. So that's something that came up and they agreed to put a fire hydrant. Then the turnaround, we asked for if it's going to be a turnaround, okay, yeah, you can do it, but we would like an easement to do it so people can do it forever, not just the friendly neighbors. The other thing was, parking and snow plowing and blocking the way since it's so narrow. And since it is 1906 or whatever, what do we have control over? And we do have two of the neighbors here. Is there a way that we can at least put in the deeds for those properties, the requirements that you need to not block and plow and do all that stuff to maintain the road? And hopefully you can get another property
Third.
in line, but at least make sure that those agreements are in place, because they don't exist right now. There's nothing that says you can't park a car in the right-of-way. I mean, people haven't done it.
Well, that was the question I asked earlier. They have an easement to reverse it, but the other parties to the easement could prevent them from blocking it.
Well, at the same time, though, the people have the rights to travel over it do not have the rights to block it, because inherently, if you have the rights to pass and you share them, you don't have the right to block. But, it's just kind of like, it's not
I
as
ask a
explicit as
question?
it could be.
Yeah.
Is there any way to possibly make this wider? I understand you can't on the right because it drops down. On the left, it's someone's property. But maybe it would be worthwhile for your client to purchase a small strip of that land so that you can make this wider. It would be to the benefit of the neighbor that you're purchasing the land from as well, because then everyone would have a 15-foot or so wide drive aisle, and it would just solve so many problems.
What's the lot sizes? Would that pull anyone under 20,000 square feet?
You could do it as
I'd rather give them a variance for that and have a 15-foot wide drive aisle.
I'm thinking of the to the front on Kelly Farm.
I wouldn't, if we were going to, for the sake of argument, say we're going to do it, I would probably recommend doing it via an easement rather than purchasing it.
Right, yeah.
For what you point out, there might be a square footage issue with one of these lots.
However you do it, if you could pave over, because I know you can't pave on the right,
Right.
but if you could pave over on the left, it would be going on someone's property. But if
Right.
there's a way to do that, it would be to everyone's benefit.
Well, there's obviously legal issues involved with that, and logistical issues. I think there's a fence most of the way. I don't know what's on the other side of the fence. If somebody's landscaped right up to there, they might
Oh,
know.
there's a shed right up against one of them.
Where you
There is?
talk-
Oh,
Way
great.
up here, or, that's way up here,
I
I
recall,
think. Yeah.
I believe I saw a shed right up against one of them.
From my
And Mrs.
standpoint, I
Ivetsky is
think
nodding
the bigger
yes.
problem is from the street to here. Because up here, there's more open space here. My client's going to own this, so there's room to maneuver once you get up here. Down here, it's where you get the wetlands right along here. This guy's got a fence going along, and his backyard's right on the other side of that fence. I'm not sure he wants to push his fence back. I don't know who it is.
So
I've
it's
never-
between Muller Road and
make
106.
it worth his while.
Yeah, to me, that's the part right there that I think because once you get by here, as I think Ernie said, it's a kind of a straight shot, you get a visual, you can see if somebody's coming.
Still 11 feet wide, though.
Right,
And there's another fence.
Yeah.
but on this side, there's more uplands. We own this
Could maybe
property.
pave on the right side there.
Exactly. So that's,
So-
trying to encroach even 5 feet into this guy's backyard is probably not going to be very popular with him, I'm guessing.
Well, you'd have to make it worth his while.
But he doesn't even use this right away, so it's not going to benefit him at all. The only house that uses this right away is this house here.
Right, I'm saying you'd have to pay him. That's the only way you could make it worth his while. I don't know if he'd be willing to sell, but
I mean,
you
that's-
could,
I
if you
can't-
could pave on the left side when you're coming in, and then pave on the right side after that first house, you might be able to get to 15 feet all the way.
Well, the right-of-way ends at the gray here, so anything beyond here, on this side, there's 3 or 4 to 5 feet between the gray and the actual right-of-way. So we have room that we can use here, as long as, Concom says they're okay with it. Once you go on this side of the right-of-way, you're into somebody else's property, and we've got to have those discussions, which we've never had.
Right, I just,
And
I know it's not something you can answer tonight, Tom. I'm just thinking it might be to the benefit of all 3 homes that live along there if there was a way to widen it. They may be open to doing that.
According to the map I'm looking at, Tom, I think that fellow with the driveway that comes onto this right-of-way, down, right.
this one here? Yeah.
Right down there, doesn't he own that whole strip all the way out to Muller Road?
He owns it right out, see this line right here, Ernie?
Yep.
That's the edge of his lot.
Oh, okay, so he's
And
got
then-
that small...
and then he goes out there. From this line
benefit
to
to
Muller
the guy
Road,
there.
it's this guy at 104 Muller Road, who doesn't use this right away. He accesses right off of Muller Road.
Okay, because that's
He
not
has
how
no
the
reason
town
to.
map is showing.
Yeah, this line right here is the property line between this guy and this guy. So this guy he owns up to here. But then from here on in, it's 104 Muller Road, and they don't use this right away. They have a driveway that comes right off of Muller.
So this map is obsolete. There's been the 2 houses off, or the 1 house off Kelly Farm is not shown on that plot, I don't think. Oh, no, there it is. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
That's the that's off the assessors map that's
Yeah,
online
okay,
today.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the right-of-way as part of his, okay, never mind.
I'm just not sure it's practical, certainly not realistic in the short term to work out some kind of a deal with several of the neighbors. There's just going to be a lot that goes into that. And they very well might say, no, I don't need an extra 10 grand. I like my backyard the way it is, so I just don't think we can count on that.
I
Josh, you
understand
said
can't count on it, yes.
there was a comment from the police department that
Yes.
just came in. Would you read that to us?
Yes, absolutely.
Josh?
Yep, this is from the police department. It would be extremely helpful if the applicant could put a sign on Muller Road indicating what numbers are on that shared driveway. As far as accessing Cormier Road, the applicant would have to understand that they're creating a cut-through that if people realize existed, they would use to access the Middlesex Mall area. The police department would find it difficult to respond every time someone used their driveway. If it is determined that Cormier needs to be accessed, then a provision should be made to place some type of physical barrier in the middle of the driveway so it is not utilized as a cut-through.
What was that, to put something, a barrier?
Put in a
Yes.
barrier.
Gate?
He didn't, he just used the word physical barrier in the middle
Thought
of the
we
driveway.
couldn't block.
Well,
You can't do it.
He
He
wasn't,
was talking about
okay.
it from a police standpoint,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
right. He wasn't privy to our conversation with council.
that can't be done. So, all right, thank you.
Yes.
All righty, folks, we've discussed this a few times. What do we do?
One more question for Mr. Murphy, if I could.
Sure.
Tom, Miss Attorney Murphy, excuse me. Has your client considered, for fire safety purposes, dry sprinkling either of these houses or not?
I haven't had that conversation with them.
I mean, from a safety standpoint, or for fire safety.
No, I understand. I guess,
That would be completely, it's not within our purview.
It's going to be all stone.
there'll be a hydrant right
Right,
there,
and that's
and the
the-
trucks can get in there, so I think
Yeah.
from that standpoint.
Yeah, the response time is going to be,
Right. In fact, that's, the fire department's point, which again was valid, is the nearest hydrant is out here.
Right, no, that's a,
Which is an 800-foot run.
yeah, even if you have a hydrant right out in front of the house, the response time for them to get there and hook up is probably going to be one of the longest of anywhere else in town.
it probably would be anyways. It's quite a distance from a fire.
Yeah.
Right, that's true, right.
Kristen, what is required for this vote? Is it a simple
That's
majority
what I'm
of the
looking at.
people that
My
are here?
cheat sheet's not in my book.
Okay.
It's in our rules and regs. I'm sorry, I'm looking up, I'm trying to find what
I
the vote,
understand.
because for the waiver, because you have the waiver vote and you have the vote.
Yeah.
And I just want to be sure to
You don't
tell
have to
you,
vote
since
on
you're
each of
missing
these
two.
waivers
Tom,
individually.
do you happen to know off the top of your head?
What was the question?
The vote requirement for the waiver and for the full vote with fewer
Simple
members?
majority or not?
Is it different than a
It used to be
A
enough.
subdivision vote is just a simple majority, I believe.
no, but is it of the
Of the
full
7 or of the
board
5?
or of the sitting, or, and if there's fewer sitting, that's what I'm just trying to figure out. So I apologize.
We used to have a chart. No?
I know I had a cheat sheet that I always have in my book, but I don't have it right now.
Is it sitting or of an existing board?
Some of them are sitting, and some are.
If I had my gut, I'd say you need 4. You need 4 for both votes. And the waiver vote, I just want to be sure. If there were one more of you, it would definitely have been 4. So I apologize, I'm just trying to,
Want to use the computer?
no, but anyway, we can continue discussing. I will
Okay,
find-
well, I'm not
find the
sure
answer.
what at this point to discuss. Let's,
Well, we have-
Barbara, did you have anything more you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
Paul?
Since I'm going to vote on this, I'll tell you what I think about it. Like a month or two ago, we had an issue which was similar to this. I think it was Mooney Road. And it passed, but I voted against it because I just thought it was one of those cases where we're trying to stuff too much into too small a space. And, I'm just opposed to that. But I'm more concerned here. I almost feel like I'm protecting these people against themselves because we have seen, whether we like it or not, that there are more and more severe weather events that are happening. And as a matter of fact, they cited, and you may remember or not, but it was like in April, about 4 years ago, we had 14 inches of snow. And so he can plow the 14 inches of snow, but not if he's had a heart attack. And to have this dependent upon one of the residents volunteering to plow this long length of road, to me, that's scary. It is.
Unless there's a homeowners association, they all have to cover the cost of a
Well,
contractor.
less in whether, and could you, and so forth.
Sure.
And, how many is, well, if you can do this, I can widen a little bit and so forth, but you can't. It is what it is. It's a narrow road servicing, 3 houses now? And who knows? They may be back for a 4th, but.
This is the fourth.
Yeah.
This is the
But
third.
Paul makes a good point, we have a plow guy, we pay for a plow guy to come, but sometimes he doesn't come as fast as I think he should come, and sometimes it's hard to get out of the driveway, but the fire department can come because the town is plowing right in front of my house, because it's a street. If this doesn't get plowed in a timely fashion, no one can get in there.
In the event there's 14 inches of snow, you can't, going in, you can't plow to the left because you're going to damage somebody's fence. Can you plow to the right if you got that?
As long as.
And it
I'm
goes
not
into
even
the
talking about whether or not
wetlands?
it can be plowed. I'm talking about if it's not plowed yet, and somebody in there gets hurt or sick,
But I'm wondering, can they plow and push snow into the wetlands?
well, where else are they gonna put it?
Well, I don't know. The Conservation Commission, do you know
This-
what the situation is along that line of plowing and the snow going into the wetlands?
They've been plowing it for as long as those houses have been there.
Well, now that Conservation is going to be looking at it, what may happen?
Well, I don't think they're looking at it, they'll be looking at it any more than they typically
Okay,
do. They
so
try
that's a
to.
question I shouldn't ask, I guess, huh?
No, it's just never been an issue. They've been living there for 15 years, and they plow, every time it snows, they plow it.
If they were putting salt on the road, then conservation would be concerned, I'm sure. But they're not. He said that he just plows it. Yeah.
Again, I would just, I mean, there's already a house up there, and it's been there since 2007 or something, 2006. They'd make it work.
I have another question for staff.
I think you need 4 to do the waivers regardless, so, I mean, and you have to do the waivers to approve the subdivision, so,
My
Do waivers
question-
first.
Can
That
I have
was
a
saying-
question?
oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you saying the waivers have to be done first? That's a yes.
Yes, sorry.
So, Kristen, if this does not pass tonight, there's nothing to stop them from coming back with a new plan that includes a change that makes this safer or more palatable to us. In other words, something out to Cormier Road, or a way to do a wider driveway, or a homeowners association, or something like that. If it doesn't pass tonight, they can come back with a change.
It would need to be substantially different than what's in front of you.
And that would be a decision that we would make, right?
Yeah.
We would make that decision. Whether
Pardon
it's-
me?
We would make the decision.
Okay,
whether it's-
thank you.
It says two-thirds of the plan.
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
Carol. Yes,
On the
Just
waiver, yeah.
to address that scenario, I guess, if you will. There's actually a plan that has been submitted to you folks that shows the road out to Cormier. We
Right.
talked about that last time. If it's the
You need 5 then.
will of the majority, or at least if there's not a majority in favor of approving this, my request would then be not to vote on it, and we'll go forward on the Cormier Road one. If we choose to do that, we have to go back before the Board of Health, because they haven't reviewed that part of the plan. They only reviewed this part of the plan.
I understand.
And then we'd look to continue this to a
Right.
further planning board meeting to go
Right.
forward with the Cormier Road.
Unless you want to continue
Well,
and have the other 2 members
it's a
that
number of-
missed tonight sit
yeah,
here.
That's
there's a number
true.
of questions that have been raised. Can you get access to going in, land on the left to widen? At that point, you have sufficient, up to 106. So that may be worth investigating rather than voting tonight with unknown. The other question was maybe a homeowners association. So maybe between now and the next meeting, you can get that information rather than us voting on that tonight, not knowing the answers to those questions, which seem to be important to some of the members.
I think I can definitely have an answer on the homeowners association. We'll just have to talk to that neighbor and tell them
Yep.
what we're looking to do. And frankly, I don't anticipate a problem with that. That's to their benefit. To be honest, trying to, in 2 weeks, negotiate the purchase of piece of somebody's backyard.
Or an
and
easement.
Or easement,
No,
that's
but
probably
you
not
could
going to
explore
happen.
the Cormier Road option in that
Right.
time.
Now, if,
Which the fire department, which the police really don't want.
I know that, but, you know,
we remain.
there's no perfect solution here, so we're trying to choose the best option, the safest option, and I'm sure people have different views on this, but the way I'm looking at it, I see
The waivers, yeah.
creating a cut-through as less dangerous than having people possibly stranded in there and not able to get help if they need it. And there are probably ways that you could make that cut-through unattractive, although you couldn't block it.
we've said from the beginning, we're willing to go out to Cormier, and we certainly have a 40-foot right-of-way, so we can
Right.
make a plenty wide access. It's just going to be disruptive to the neighborhood.
I understand,
And-
and I feel
and-
bad about that. I mean, here's the thing, Tom, I don't want to say no to this. I feel bad for these people. I don't want to say no to them, but I also feel like if I had to vote on this the way it is tonight, I can't say yes.
So let's continue.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but you're looking to gauge what's
And I-
going to
and-
happen,
and
so I want to
appreciate
be
that.
upfront
No,
with you.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I wasn't that great at math, but I'm pretty good at
Fine with the
math.
waiver.
And,
Okay.
so,
Tom,
yeah,
to help you make your decision, Christian is just saying 5 votes for the waiver.
Oh,
5 for
really?
the waiver, okay.
Oh,
All right, so,
you might not want to vote tonight.
so what I think I'm going to do, I'm on the Board of Health agenda for the next meeting, so that they can review the Cormier Road aspect of it.
Okay.
And they will revise their comments accordingly, I assume.
So you're already scheduled for that meeting.
We're on their agenda for next Tuesday.
Okay.
And I'd like to continue this to the 18th. And in the meantime, I'm going to talk to the neighbors about, putting some sort of a homeowners association in. I don't know where you guys are. I don't know how many of these tools, if I get affirmative
Systems,
answers,
I don't know.
would make you more comfortable with going Muller Road, or if you're dead set on Cormier, then I won't spend a lot of time on the Muller Road end of it. But I'm quite certain I could get the third neighbor to agree to a homeowners association.
So what would the homeowners association provide? It would provide for, they're all going to have to cooperate, and they're all going to have to
Exactly.
get
It's
the thing
basically-
plowed.
It would basically be a three-way easement that'll go on record at the Registry of Deeds, where anybody buying one of these houses down the road will see that they're obligated
Right.
not to park in the right-of-way, to contribute towards maintaining it, contribute towards clearing the snow.
But it doesn't widen anything.
Well, Al just said he'll go out and take another look, and John Keely is receptive if we can do it. We might be able to widen it from 11 to 12 in some areas and from 11 to 15 in other areas. I think at the very least, we can have those two turnout areas, so it'll alleviate the two cars coming at each other.
If you do that, then you have to have it in the homeowners association that people can't park there.
No,
I don't know what they do when they have company.
Well, I don't know either, to be honest with you.
Park in Cormier Road and walk in.
But
Maybe they park on Muller, I don't know.
you don't have a lot of, I bet you some of them might even park at Kelly Farm and walk through the.
Oh,
that way.
maybe, yeah.
But, the homeowners association will prevent or prohibit parking within the right-of-way, whether it's a turnaround or whether it's just, it's all within the right-of-way. And like I said, I know that my clients would be willing to do that with their house, and their in-law, father-in-law and mother-in-law will be willing to do it for their house. I think the other neighbor would probably do it, it makes sense. But I just don't think we're going to be able, frankly, to negotiate easements or purchases of private property,
I understand that.
which is currently somebody's backyard and.
Right.
was on the
And they don't
other
really
side
have
of the
any
fence.
incentive. The guy
Right.
who goes out onto Muller doesn't really have much of an
No.
incentive.
So that's probably not a likely scenario, but I am willing to talk about the homeowners association and see if we can get an agreement on that.
Is there anything else that we would be looking for you to do if this is continued tonight? Because I don't want to come back and do this one at a time, back and forth.
I think
No,
we should
I
explore
agree.
the Cormier Road exit as well.
Yeah, well, he said he's going to explore that with the Board of Health.
Well, that's already been designed, and we will have Board of Health comments on that. So if we decide to go forward on from that end, and again, we have a lot more leeway over there because it's a 40-foot right-of-way, it's
Right.
not a 15-foot right-of-way. So,
Right.
so the width of the passing is not an issue over there. There's other issues, but, as you
But
said,
if you do
nothing's
that,
perfect.
then there's really just that one house that's going to be accessing through this narrow driveway because the other two houses can go out Cormier Road.
Well, I can access
Again,
either way.
They could go either way, actually, but.
Staff, is there anything
Right, but I'm
else
saying
that they should be
only
looking
that
at?
first house would have to go in that, well, I guess neither one of them would have to, but
I mean,
Yeah.
they still have the right to use the existing
yes,
right-of-way.
you're right, yes. Okay,
But there would be another way in as well.
okay.
So anything further, staff, that you would ask them to look at?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, what we were worried about is, if this was going to go forward, just means to ensure that there was an acknowledgement of free and unimpeded access along this way. If it was going to be so narrow, and try to widen it as much as we can widen it, try to put as much emergency service protection with the fire hydrant and the other items, and an agreement between neighbors
Carol
to
had
make
the
sure it's
question.
clear.
There is,
I think it's responsible, if you're going to move forward, it's responsible to put all of
what's
those
the
things in
difference
there to
between
make sure
section
that
10.8
we've covered it.
and 6.2.21
On the waivers.
on the waivers? The
There's two
last
sections.
waiver before the break.
There's
6.2
some, the plan requirements and design elements have some overlap.
Oh, okay.
So there isn't a difference necessarily, it's
One's
just the
fire
fact
alarm
that they're.
hydrants and alarm systems, the other's base elevation of existing proposed hydrants. So that's got to do with water pressure.
So 6 is what's required on the plan, 10 is design requirements, like plan, form, and contents is 6, 10
Oh.
are design requirements
They're
required
dealing with
within-
essentially the same thing in two different sections.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, folks, where are we?
I think we're continuing, right? We're continuing, I think, right?
I'm sorry? Are we done?
Jack said, where are we? And I'm suggesting we continue.
I think we're going to have to, sure. And I will go to the Board of Health next week, and we'll have hopefully their comments in time for the meeting on the 18th.
And as soon as you have any further information, get it to Kristen.
In my conversation with the Board of Health, I know they had comments about some of the additional pavement on Cormier. I would definitely recommend to the applicant
Tom?
that what we're talking, just what I would recommend you, that what we're talking about here as possible options for the bump outs and other things, just make sure you talk to them about the different alternatives so you don't have to go back.
Talk to the Board of Health.
The Board of Health, yeah, and just so they know, if we're talking about widening along the roadway, at least they can give you comments. If you do that, then this, if you do this, then that. Just because I know they're very specific about very much wanting to see the plan, especially, they have jurisdiction within the subdivision plan. So I just want to make sure you don't have to get delayed because they need to see you again for something, so.
You've already been back and forth a number of times. If we could put that at a minimum, it would be nice for everybody.
Did neither of the other two miss any of the?
So we'll come back, and I hope to have an answer on the
Because they only came
homeowners
last.
association in more definitive answer on the bump outs or widening what's there now.
And get that to staff as soon as possible so staff can get it out to us.
Right,
And frankly, then at the end, it's,
right. And it sounds like, depending on what you're presenting, it might be appropriate for us to have a meeting out there at the property to see,
Sure, it's getting warmer.
okay?
yeah.
Yeah, we can try to schedule them. We knew
Okay.
with people, but we knew about scheduling.
We all better go
It's
down
gonna
in one
be-
car,
if-
not in separate cars.
Well, but if it's going to be, it's going to be 12 feet wide here and 15 wide
Yeah.
from here, and we're going to have a pullout over there, it's going to be easier if we can actually walk it and
Yeah.
see what
Oh,
you mean.
we're happy to do that if you want to
Okay.
set something up.
It's just my suggestion, I don't know what the rest of the board would think.
Yeah, well, let us know when you kind of figured it out,
Figured out,
where the bump out could be.
Where everything will be.
I think we probably have a pretty good idea right now.
Okay.
So-
But you said also you might be able to widen in other areas, you're going to look into that, so it would be great if we could actually see it.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
yeah, we can set up a sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then, at the end of the day, access obviously is what you folks are concerned about, and if you still don't think whatever we come up with and come back with, it's not enough to okay
And go out
Cormier,
Cormier.
we'll just go out to
Okay.
Cormier.
Thank you.
My clients just mentioned that, and that's something we'll have to talk about the Board of Health with this. Rather than paving out to Cormier, they could do a gravel road if people think that's less intrusive. We'll talk to whomever, but, they're, it's a young couple, they're looking to live here, and
Yeah.
they'll do what they have to do to make it work, because they're going to be living there. They don't want to put themselves in a bad spot either, so.
And we want them to be able to do that too, we just want them to be safe there.
Yep. As do they. All right, so we'll be back on the 18th as soon as I get things out forward.
Yes.
Did we voted on the motion?
No, we didn't. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of April 18th, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
Thank you.
500. All right.
Minutes? Page 32.
Page 32. We've got everything done but, okay.
Minutes.
All righty, I just had one small correction on December 6th. I think it said December 6th, and I had no corrections on the other two myself. Everyone else have a chance to read them?
I was all set?
Did you get
Those
to
were
read
the
the
ones
minutes?
that I already.
No, I
Thank you.
didn't. Things have been
Okay.
busy at our
Did
house.
you read them all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because.
Yeah.
How about you, Ernie?
Yep, I'm all set
So
to
four
vote.
of you have,
So of the four who have read them, are we all eligible to vote on all of them?
Sure.
Yes.
All righty,
Yeah.
have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of December 6, 2018, January 3rd, 2019, and January 17th, 2019,
As corrected.
as corrected.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained,
Abstain.
401.
and I want to thank Noelle for her wonderful work, although she hasn't been here, and for very good reason, has done a very good job getting, getting the minutes done from tape, and always feel free to call us if you have
Well,
questions about.
she's had nothing else to do, so.
It's amazing how much eyeball time you need on little
Yeah.
ones.
Sure. Yes, thank you.
And congratulations again.
Yes,
Again, yes.
she's beautiful. So, anything else?
I don't know, 5
Motion
past
to adjourn?
9.
Zach, you want to go home?
I just made a motion.
Yeah. I heard-
Second.
okay.
There we go, it's
Moved and
seconded.
second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained at 9:07, is that?
Yeah.
Okay.